Good evening and welcome to the New York Symposium with Diane Sayre. I'm Diane Sayre, the LaRouche candidate for U.S. Senate challenging Chuck Schumer. Today is July 29th and we are going to continue with something we began taking up just 2 weeks ago, which is the breakthrough of the Webb telescope, the photographs that we are receiving and the implications for the future of what human beings really ought to be doing, because that's the question. This is not just for us to sit back and ooh and ah about what we're discovering in the skies, which is beautiful and amazing, but it has certain implications for humanity and human life. And I would say that given the series of crises we are facing right now, such questions are very, very urgent to put mankind in its proper perspective. Now, I just want to say a couple of things about the political strategic situation before I introduce my guests. And I'm going to show you something which has come to attention recently. People may have heard about this. This is an article from American Military News. Ukraine declares Rand Paul, Tulsi Gabbard, other Americans are Russian propagandists. And I will show you the list in just a moment, but I would like you to see that it does include a full list of Americans. They start with Scott Ritter, Graham Fuller, Senator Richard Black, Ray McGovern, and here, Diane Sayre, a political candidate who ran as a Democrat for New Jersey's 5th Congressional District and who is now running for New York Senate seat as an independent in 2022. Jeff Young, a political candidate. Jason Ross, a political activist with the LaRouche Organization and Schiller Institute. And they make the point in this article that in March, Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, the great democratic leader to whom we are sending billions of dollars worth of weapons and aid, actually banned all the opposition parties in Ukraine. He banned 11 political parties. And also it says that the SBU security service has been going around arresting hundreds of Ukrainian citizens who probably for crimes like thinking they should surrender and not have every last Ukrainian ground up in this proxy war between NATO and Russia. Now, what I wanted to show you here is the list. This is in Ukrainian, but it says that these people are basically sources of Russian propaganda. The first person on the list is Graham Fuller. I will note that Graham Fuller actually spoke at a Schiller Institute conference on this topic. Number 2 on the list, Helga Zepp LaRouche, founder of the Schiller Institute. Jens Jorgen Nielsen also spoke at a Schiller Institute conference. Colonel Richard Black, Ray McGovern, Jim Jatras, Harley Schlanger, longtime. All of these people I am naming have appeared either on the LaRouche Organization or at the Schiller Institute conferences. Dr. Wang Wen, Tony Magliano, etc., Jay Naidu. In fact, Alessa Ruggieri, the first 30 names on this list, Dr. George Koo, Jacques Cheminade, Caleb Maupin, are all people who appeared on the Schiller Institute conference. I want you to think about the implications of that, because it means that the Ukrainian regime and really their British, NATO, and U.S. State Department controllers believe that the Schiller Institute and its policies are the greatest threat to the narrative being carried out to keep us on the brink of thermonuclear war. There you see me, and apparently translated, these things say that I think the situation in Ukraine is insane, provoked by the USA. I say that Zelensky is only trying to satisfy his ego and doesn't care about food shortages, and that if we keep sending weapons, we're going to end up in nuclear war. Those are my crimes, my criminal expressions here. And then we go down, Mike Calicrate, a farmer, for heaven's sakes, and I'm not sure what this is. I see USA there, but what he said. And then we get farther down, and these are some people who have not been at Schiller Institute conferences, but people may know Scott Ritter, for example, former UN weapons inspector, very outspoken against this war. Michael Springman, David Payne, Tulsi Gabbard, people know, former presidential candidate, former congresswoman, veteran. They're accusing her of being a Russian propagandist. So this is a very big deal. And I'm going to share with you one last thing, which is from Scott Ritter, who, like myself, is a resident of the state of New York. This is published in Consortium News. And he makes the point, U.S. should not fund Ukrainian blacklist, that Senator Chuck Schumer, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and Congressman Paul Tonko all voted to support what was called the Additional Supplemental Appropriations Act, which became a law on May 21st, 2022. This was, I think, the first big $40 billion tranche to Ukraine. And he said, I would like to know if you are funding an assault on the U.S. Constitution by a foreign government. He cites the First Amendment, and he says, you appear to have abrogated your constitutional responsibilities insofar as you may have in fact made a law which both abridges the freedom of speech and a free press by enabling the government of Ukraine, through the use of U.S. taxpayer dollars appropriated under Public Law 117-128, to publish a blacklist singling out U.S. citizens as Russian propagandists for exercising their constitutional rights pertaining to free speech. And then he goes on just to say that people should know that such blacklists also, he said, Ukraine has a history of converting blacklists of this nature into kill lists, where those who speak against the policies of the Ukrainian government are being murdered or threatened with violence. I am certain you agree with me that Congress cannot be in a position where through its actions foreign governments are provided the means to intimidate citizens of the United States from exercising their constitutionally protected rights regarding free speech. And I will say that he is correct. I concur with him. This is extremely serious when you have members of the U.S. Congress funding another nation, putting American citizens on a hit list, a blacklist. Now it turns out that on July 14th, the day before this blacklist was posted, Andriy Shapovalov, who is the head of the Center for Countering Disinformation, which is who made the list, said there was a conference which was, quote, supported by the U.S. State Department. So Ritter's allegation that the funding from the authorized by the Congress went explicitly to this organization and to create this list would seem to be accurate to me. And at their conference in Ukraine, they went so far as to say that people spreading such things were acting as terrorists with words and should be arrested for war crimes. So this, I think, will really backfire. Helga Zepp-LaRouche is circulating a statement now which is being endorsed by the people who participated in Schiller Institute conferences. That will be released tomorrow with a few dozen names on it, and I think this could terribly backfire on the people doing it. But with that being said, I think it will help us to counter this ugliness and brutality, to contemplate that the planet is actually very small in the entire galaxy, or universe, I should say, and we now have some tools that allow us to see that. So I have two guests with me tonight. First, we'll hear from Megan Dobrodt, who worked closely with LaRouche's science team. She's going to be talking about some of the implications of the Webb telescope. And then we'll hear from Andrew Hernandez, who is a filmmaker and and loves space science, and can tell us a great deal about the fight for the Arecibo telescope in Puerto Rico. And as always, participation in the symposium with me does not constitute endorsement of my candidacy necessarily, and it doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with the views of my guests, but we want the American people to have access to the discussion of these issues. And even in this day and age where everything has to be in unison and politically correct, to even hear people having disagreements, which I don't think will happen too much tonight. But I'd like to welcome both of you. And Megan, why don't you go ahead?
Thanks, Diane. Well, I'm hoping that people have seen these incredible images from the James Webb Space Telescope. I'm confident most people have. Some of them I'm going to show and go through in a few minutes. And I want to refer people also back to this show, the symposium of 2 weeks ago, where Diane and her guests discussed also the James Webb Space Telescope and some of the things that I'm not going to touch on tonight, like the technicalities of the telescope and some other important things. So I'll ask people to go back and listen to that. But what I want to get at tonight as our theme is what I think may be really one of the most important things to take from these first results of the Webb telescope. And that is that these images that are being sent back and processed and put together prove that we human beings are not Earthlings. We have a responsibility to explore, develop, and master our solar system, our galaxy, and beyond. And we will only fulfill that mission if we stop the kind of nonsense that Diane was referring to, such as this bumbling, stumbling, and push toward nuclear war, unless we let go of the idea that there's some other grouping of people on the planet which are our enemy, whom we must destroy and subdue. That is old animal behavior. And what Webb shows us is that we are human. So to start, I want to take the famous Webb deep field image, which you should see on your screen in a moment here. Now, this image, which is used, on these dots of light, are thousands of galaxies. Can I still be heard? My computer.
We can hear you, but I can't see the image.
Yeah, Megan, why don't you stop screen sharing and then start it over again?
Okay, is that better? All right, I'm going to try to screen share again, and hopefully my computer doesn't crash. Here we go. Okay, I think that's working now. All right. Okay, so this image with these dots of light contains thousands and thousands of galaxies. And people probably heard the scale of this portion of the sky we're looking at is comparable to if you held a grain of sand between your fingers and extended it at arm's length and looked at that grain of sand. That's how large the spot of the sky is in which these thousands of galaxies are contained. So it's incredibly tiny. Now, for comparison, here is the same portion of sky as we saw from the Hubble telescope. And you just see the incredible advancement of Webb over Hubble, which was already an incredible piece of technology. Now, 100 years ago, we didn't know that there were any other galaxies than our own. From images like this one from Webb and also Hubble, we now estimate that there are 2 trillion galaxies in our universe. 2 trillion, which is really beyond comprehension. Now, a cynic would say, and many have, that proves that we humans are completely insignificant, that we thought we were special, we thought we had an important central role in this universe, but really we're just a speck of dust on a very small planet around a single star, which is one of a billion, billions of stars in a measly little galaxy, which is one of 2 trillion. We are nothing compared to the vastness of this universe. Now, in contrast to that, and along with our theme of tonight, I want to read something from Friedrich Schiller, after whom the Schiller Institute is named, who was the poet of freedom in Germany. So this is from a writing called The Aesthetic Estimation of Magnitude. Schiller says, but it is an external force which gives him this, but is it an external force which gives him this experience of his limitations? Is it the fault of the measureless ocean or the infinite star-sown heaven that I become self-conscious of my impotence while representing their greatness? Whence, in that event, do I know that their greatness exceeds the reach of my representation, and that I can obtain no totality of their image? Do I indeed know of these objects that they are supposed to constitute a totality of a mental image? I could only know this by virtue of my mental image of them, and in no other way. And yet, it is presupposed that I cannot imagine them as a totality. They are thus not presented to me as a totality, and I myself am the very one who first put the concept of totality into them. I thus already have this idea in me, and I myself, the thinking being, am the very one by which I, the being who makes representations of images of the intellect, am vanquished. In contemplating these great objects, I indeed experience my powerlessness, but I experience it through my strength. I am not vanquished by nature. I am vanquished by my own self. And so the universe is vast, but the mind of mankind is infinitely more vast, such that it can contain and master the concept of something as infinite as our universe with those 2 trillion galaxies. So with that in mind, let's take a quick tour of some of the images sent back by the Webb telescope. So for fun, I'm not going to say too much about this, but here is the image of the Southern Ring Nebula. And on the left is what Hubble told us. And on the right is what we get from Webb. And you can see this incredible detail of these massive, light years across clouds of stellar dust in great, incredible detail and beauty. Here, this is, I think, an incredibly interesting phenomenon. This is called Stephan's quintet. Quintet because what you're seeing here are 5 galaxies, 4 of which we know are clearly in close interaction based on the tails and trails of cosmic dust and so forth, linking them, along with the 2 in the center, which are very close, which are said to be headed into a collision, a merge. Now, just again, for fun, we have the same quintet as seen by Hubble on the right and James Webb on the left. This is also an image of the same quintet of galaxies. It's kind of rotated to the side counterclockwise. This is by the Chandra X-ray telescope. And what I want to point out is this arc in the middle, this bright blue arc, which is vertical. This is taken in the X-ray range of the electromagnetic spectrum. And what this shows is this are turbulent shock waves, which are traveling through this cosmic dust because of the motion of these merging galaxies, which is really just an incredible thought. And we see the same thing. Here's another image, again, of the quintet taken by Webb. And we see, now this is rotated back, we see horizontally in the middle, again, that same arc of this turbulent gas, these shock waves being created by these merging galaxies as seen in the infrared by Webb. So this area, the reason I'm kind of focusing on it briefly is this area of shock wave is an area of vast creation of new stars. So what you see here, it's funny because when we have the idea of, a stellar merger or galaxies crashing into one another, it sounds like a very destructive, terrible thing. But actually what you're looking at is creation, is growth, is some kind of process that we very little understand of the evolution and growth of galactic systems. Okay, this one is quite famous because of its beauty. This is the Cosmic Cliffs. The nickname is the Cosmic Cliffs in the Carina Nebula. And this is just the very edge of a star-forming region in a nebula, which is roughly 9,000 9,000 light years away from us here on Earth. And I'll just flip to the next slide quickly. This is an older and larger image that was taken, not by Webb, but this is an image of the larger nexus of nebula, of which the Cosmic Cliffs is just a tiny little sliver. So just to kind of put it in context there. But this region, so if what we were looking at were a mountain range, which it resembles, the highest peaks of that mountain range would be 7 light years high. Meaning if you were riding on a beam of light, it would take you, going at the speed of light, it would take you 7 years to reach the top. So all of this, what we're looking at, this mountain range looking structure, this is cosmic dust, which is being swept up into these incredible forms by the emissions of nearby stellar clusters. These are stellar winds, ultraviolet radiation, and so forth. And what's being created in this cosmic dust is a nursery, which is birthing new stars. So again, a creative process, creating something in our universe which never existed before. An example of, we're looking at something very much akin to biological evolution. Yeah, so I'll mention that more in a moment. The final image, I'm sorry, before I get to that, again, because I really can't get over it, on the right you see Hubble, which we already thought was incredible and beautiful, and on the left, Webb. Okay, so the final image from Webb, which I'll show, is a spectroscopic result. So let me back up. So Webb telescope images the universe in the infrared. It has the capability to do a spectroscopic analysis of the light which is reaching the telescope. And the importance of that is that spectroscopy shows us what elements are out there. So hydrogen, oxygen, these kinds of things all have unique spectroscopic spectra. They absorb particular wavelengths of light and reflect others. And we can use this fact to look from millions of light years away and say, oh, there's water out there. And so one of the missions of Webb is to further survey the sky and look for exoplanets, or in other words, planets in solar systems other than our own, which would have the potential to house life based on our assumptions of what's needed for life. So this is just one early result of an exoplanet, which is called WASP-96b. And Webb is telling us that, so it's a gas giant planet. It's about half the mass of Jupiter, and it's 1,100 light years from Earth. So it's a close neighbor. And we already know that this exoplanet, one of the planets in its star system, has water in the atmosphere. So a little hint that there is the potential for life out there. Okay. So all of these things blow your mind. They're incredible. But what are they really? Galaxies? Cosmic plumes of dust and stellar nurseries? I mean, yeah, in one sense, what you saw in those pictures is those things, sort of. But really what those pictures are, they're not, we didn't see the galaxy. We didn't see the clouds of dust or whatever. They're sense impressions. They're sense readings. It's a particular shadow projected onto our sense perceptual instrumentation. In this case, the instrumentation is an incredible set of infrared eyes that we built for ourselves and launched into space. So this extended sensorium, but what we're seeing is just a shadow, a particular slice of how reality affected our senses. And the reality of the thing, or the reality of the situation, is that depending on which set of senses we look at something with, we may get a very different reading. And again, just for a quick example, I want to just look at or present to you the Crab Nebula, which I'm very excited for Webb to image. This is not an image from Webb. This is from Hubble. I think this is from Hubble. So this is the Crab Nebula, which is one of the most highly studied nebula out there so far. And here it is, and this is a combination of mostly visible light, the visible light range, but also I think there's some infrared and other ranges in there. But that's, in one sense, what the Crab Nebula looks like, which is blows your mind. But here's another image of the Crab Nebula. And this would be taken if your eyes could see just X-rays. That's what this is. This is an X-ray image of the crab. And what you see in there is this central pulsar, which is this phenomenon that we really have almost no understanding of, which is blasting out this jet of material, which is light years across, and it's surrounded by this ring. We really have no idea what's going on there, but just to kind of make the point. So we have the Crab Nebula or the Crab Nebula. And let me stop sharing here. Okay. So just with those two images, it already challenges your idea of how could those two things really be the same phenomenon. But the thing is, even if we had an array of 100 of those images or 1,000 different images of the Crab Nebula or Stephan's quintet, or any of those things, even if we made leaps of technological improvements of our telescopes and our instruments, all we would ever see is that shadow, is the way in which that phenomenon affects our sense perception, not the thing itself. And so the question is, how do we get beyond the sense impression to the reality of the thing? That's where the biological part of being human reaches its limitations. But this is where the mind of man takes over. The domain of the mind, the creative thinking, hypothesizing mind, utilizes those sense impressions. We need them. But what we deal with is the realm of invisible, universal physical principles. The images tease the mind, provoke the mind, present paradoxes to the mind, the solution to which can only be seen in the formation of hypothesis. So here with Webb, or things like Webb. Webb is just the most currently exciting, most advanced sense instrument that we've put out there. The real thing that we have to start to get at and collaborate with as a human species to get at is asking the question, what action is occurring in this creative universe, which is projecting itself onto the Webb telescope as such, right? Where is this universe going? And how's it getting there? And the more we're able to answer these types of questions, as we have throughout all human history, one example is Kepler's discovery of universal gravitation. The more of those questions we answer, we're able to wield those answers, those hypotheses, as powers. new powers in the hands of mankind. These invisible conceptions, which turned out to be valid principles, we use them to bend the universe to our will in a benevolent way, right? To use it to help our species further develop. We're the only species that does this. Now, 2 weeks ago on the symposium here, the discussants, one topic that came up was the Big Bang, which is sort of a big thing around that you'll hear around discussion of Webb. The Big Bang, which in very simple terms is when we run the mathematical models backwards, we decided that the universe probably began 13.8 billion years ago when all the stuff was condensed into a little tiny singularity. And for some reason, it exploded. And ever since, all the stuff has been expanding. So the Webb telescope is designed to be able to see light from things, right, from a little bit over 13 billion years ago. So the first formation of galaxies, which already is just an incredible thought that Webb can see things from 13 billion years ago. And the truth or not of the Big Bang theory aside, anyway, that's just really an incredible capability. But you take that Big Bang and the idea that the universe ever since has been slowly winding down, that the entropy has been increasing, and we'll eventually reach a point where no change is possible. And that's an idea which comes from Norbert Wiener, who I'll leave aside. But the obvious philosophical problems with that, what if it's the opposite? What if since the beginning of time, whenever that was, the universe has not been winding down, but it's been increasing in its energy flux density, increasing in its organization, increasing in its beauty and its power? What if the universe is becoming more and more capable of change, of development? In fact, that is much closer to what we've actually observed here on Earth and out in the universe. You look at Earth, right? Earth did not start out as this highly organized system with life in a biosphere, and it's just been degenerating since, right? Over time, the biosphere life has been developing into more and more complex creatures, more and more complex and interacting systems and subsystems, to a point when it was able to create a life form, which is not just a life form, namely us, a cognitive, creative being, which is capable of starting out on Earth, perhaps, but we're the only being which is capable of leaving the Earth and taking life with us to other parts of our solar system and our galaxy. So to kind of wrap up here, when we look out and see these star systems being created in these clouds of cosmic dust, we have to really have the idea that what we're looking at is a process of evolution, which we have very little understanding of, and really which we ought to apply what we've learned from minds such as Vernadsky and LaRouche about the development of the biosphere here on Earth, and apply those principles to looking out to whatever process is going on to evolve our galactic system, our galactic group system, and beyond. So just to kind of wrap up, we are, again, to come back, we are not Earthlings. We're not merely residents of our solar system or Milky Way. We are being formed by a much larger and more important process than that, over which we have the capability of having understanding and mastery and participating in that ongoing process of evolution. And this is the basis of economics. That's the basis of progress for humanity. So just to close with two quick thoughts. One is a very short little few sentences from Lyndon LaRouche from a wonderful paper from 2010 called The Secret Economy's Outlook, where he said, the essential product of economy presently is the development of the quality of the human role in shaping the increasing portions of our planetary system and beyond as being increasingly and efficiently the habitat of mankind. So that's the essential product of economics. So just with a closing thought, we have to develop this galaxy. LaRouche laid out a 40-year program for the development of the moon and Mars as a starter. His friend and collaborator, Kraft Erica, proposed that humans eventually will have orbiting cities of 1 million people, which would have the capability of leaving this solar system. So instead of looking at these terrible problems facing the world today, which are terrible, and trying to find solutions from within what's possible today, we have to realize that we are the antecedents of those future humans that are going to leave the solar system, and let that shape our policies, our economics, our education, our city building, and our relationships to our fellow man. So I'll leave it there.
Great, thanks very much. And now we will hear from Andrew Hernandez. Don't forget to unmute yourself, filmmaker who will tell us something about some of the battles, because everyone on the planet doesn't seem to be unified in wanting us to become spacefaring creatures. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Diane, for the platform and for this amazing opportunity to create this awareness, because we, the scientists, the community here in Puerto Rico and in the international community, people need to hear their voices, because they're doing huge things. And what we went to do when the Arecibo Observatory radar fall, it was a huge deal here in Puerto Rico and in the science community, because the amazing discoveries that these amazing instruments have done, all the scientists have done with these amazing instruments around the history, a 57-year journey, all this legacy of this amazing story, because people don't know much about the discoveries there. There's astronomy science, radio astronomy, planetary science, and there's also atmospheric science there. And NASA scientists are right now doing amazing work right there. They got data from like 3 years in advance, so they're still doing lots of work there in those facilities. And as soon as it fell, the entire film industry here in Puerto Rico, we gather up and we say, you know what, we have to do something about it. We have to tell this story for the world to know. So we just went up there and we volunteered ourselves so we can give them a voice. And that's how the documentary came to be. So I want to show you a little bit about what it's all about, so you can, have something else to share with your public. So here's the trailer of the documentary, and you can see a little bit more information, and you will see how amazing this is, okay? So I will give play now to the video.
Well, it was in 1959 when they started building the Arecibo Observatory, 63 when they finished building it and it saw first light. But what led up to that time of starting in 1959? Well, the key person here is Bill Gordon. What Bill Gordon said is, hey, if we build a big enough, fine enough, high-quality instrument, we'll be able to use a different return from the ionosphere, incoherent scattering. Something new that hadn't been done before and is not that easy to do. Now you might say, why so big for doing this incoherent scatter? It was the beginning of the space age.
Asteroids are moving in space, not only orbiting around the sun, but they are also rotating.
So with Bennu and OSIRIS-REx and DART mission and this legacy of Arecibo, we had a record number of detections in the last few years. Now what?
La ciencia está llena de misterios y tratamos de buscar soluciones a estas preguntas.
Was there any doubt among scientists about whether this was a good project?
There's a lot of work to be done. What would have happened if we didn't have those radar observations?
So as I see it, there's a lot of mysteries in the universe that we need to solve.
The tool, that is, the physical instrument. But what it left behind will be part of mankind for generations to come.
So that's the Biggest Dream movie. It's called The Biggest Dream because we used to have the most powerful instruments for exploring and adventuring to the cosmos, to be curious and to find new discoveries and to find the origin of the universe and to find ourselves. But now we don't have it anymore. It's a great tragedy for the entire world because there's other instruments like Goldstone, but ours were much more capable of being sensible to these signals, including to be able to search for many hazardous asteroids that can possibly impact the Earth. So our telescope was the first line of defense for planetary science for other hazardous possible objects that can impact us. But now we don't have it anymore. And some people even say that there's other instruments, like in China, there's huge telescopes. Yeah, but ours can transmit signal and we can study other space bodies. We can study exoplanets. We can study other stuff. But right now we don't have that anymore. And it's a great deal to have proposals so it can be rebuilt, because we need to be the first ones again to have the most powerful instrument so we can be capable of creating national security or finding out new discoveries about possible habitable planets. So I'm going to show you another video about how huge this was for us, the filmmakers here in Puerto Rico and the scientists. We came together and we said, we have to make this happen. So this was a whole year adventure that we have to went through. We did a lot of research, a lot of studies, but it came to be, and I'm very honored to be part of this because I represent a lot of people that gave their all for this to happen. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the process of the filmmaking of the documentary. And again, I'm just speaking like my opinion, but I know many people are doing the best to create awareness about this. So let me show you another video that I believe is very important for you to see the making of this amazing documentary. Let me give a share and you will be able to see it. Okay, here it is. Telling the story of the world's most powerful telescope and the scientists all around the world that work there and have left their knowledge in the Arecibo Observatory was an amazing experience and a great opportunity.
The Arecibo telescope was an iconic engineering marvel, and this amazing instrument no longer stands today. And we felt the need of telling its history throughout a movie that speaks about its contribution to science, society, and culture.
I think people should really view the movie with an open mind and also listen to the students and the professionals who are talking about the observatory, because they're being genuine about their interests and their passion.
The Arecibo Observatory movie is going to record the history of this great research facility. Hopefully, it's going to inspire many people to continue doing science and to discover that their science is important for all the society.
We still need to keep learning and understanding the space and the cosmos. We want to bring you up close to the experience, not just to dream it, but to live it.
Planetary sciences, space and atmospheric sciences, radio astronomy, real scientists, real students, real people behind the amazing science that Arecibo telescope did for more than 50 years. That's what you can expect from this movie.
William E. Gordon had the biggest dream. We must share the story that changed the world and tell the importance that it is to our planet in the defense against the cosmos.
I think that the movie is trying to say that science here in Puerto Rico is really in the hands of people my age and future scientists who want to contribute to this field. And also be on the lookout for a surprise at the end.
Yes, the biggest dream is I wanted to show when I was approached, I didn't want to make a whole political deal about the movie. I wanted more to people to be inspired, especially the future generations. The Webb telescope images it's just a small way of showing how much we still got to keep searching and exploring and being curious for future generations. And the movie also tries to approach this. So what we did is tell a little bit about the golden age of the telescope, but to show how still it was so important to this day. It was a huge deal. Many people say that, oh yeah, it's obsolete. No, it wasn't obsolete. It was so important for this community. NASA is still working there. They got great scientists, not only Puerto Rican scientists. They got scientists from all over the world, like India, Canada, Colombia, Brazil. They're everywhere, Belgium. And we're so honored to have them in this amazing tropical island that I lived on, and I'm very honored. But here in Puerto Rico, for the students, it was a huge deal for the educational purposes. So we took this film and give it an inspiring way to give this also the students a voice, not only the science, also the student, because they're in the Arecibo Observatory. They got this amazing program for students from high school students that want to specialize in engineering, science, technologies, and they study there like in a special program. So when they told me that I should they had to be in the movie, they just have to. This is so important. So we give them a space. I'm gonna show you like a small trailer about what is that program about, because for me that was the most important thing for students to see the film. So I'm gonna show you another video of how important it is for the students here in Puerto Rico, especially for the science community, because they are the future. So let me show you this video. This is very beautiful video.
Well, the Arecibo Observatory inspired the Star Academy by exposing the students to cutting-edge science, but not only science, also research. And the most important part is that the Arecibo Observatory showed them, that it's possible to study planets, galaxies, and the whole universe here in Puerto Rico.
Star Academy is one of many educational programs that we have here at Arecibo. Star Academy will show the commitment of Universidad Ana Geméndez with the excellence in education, in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We want to inspire our students to be innovative, to be members of the Science Academy of the island.
The goal of Star Academy is to train the next generation of scientists in space science and in radio astronomy. Also, we want to expose the student to do research because we truly believe this is very important. And also, this is a unique program not only in Puerto Rico, but also in the Caribbean.
To me, Star Academy represents hope and direction, at least with my future and the future of my peers, and really be in tune with our passion for science, astronomy, robotics, and any other field that might contribute to science here on the island.
Arecibo Observatory impacted the future generation by telling them that we can dream. Like William E. Gordon said, when you have a dream, all you need is to surround yourself with people that have your same passion and your same goals.
Yeah, if this doesn't inspire anybody, I don't know what it is, because it took my heart. I mean, I saw all those students, and when I was shooting the movie, when everybody sees the movie, because it's still ongoing in film festivals, everybody's shocked when they see all these students. They're geniuses. They're the future. They will make the earth a better place. Literally, they're saving the earth and the people. And it's just an instrument to inspire them, but obviously we don't have it anymore. So we're creating this awareness. So now we're looking for ways to keep showing this movie also internationally. This year, we also took the movie to Spain, to Malaga University, and also showed the movie there for other students internationally. And also we're trying to put the movie in also in other platforms like streaming, and in the US also right now is in a film festival route, but we're looking for other ways to people to see it. We got great coverage when it came out in Puerto Rico, like space.com covered the movie. There are other medias covered the movie, like Vice covered the movie. But right now, I'm just going to show you the great effort internationally. I'm going to show you one of the greatest radio astronomer in the world. She has made a lot of discoveries in the world. And when I was doing the movie, I sent her the movie and she saw it privately. And actually, this video has never been released. So this is the first time I'm going to be releasing this video. And her name is Jill Tarter. And she saw the video and she was so inspired. She was very humble enough to send me this amazing, beautiful video about her seeing the movie. So I'm going to show you this because I think it's very important for the science community to know how powerful this instrument was too. Look at this video.
Hi, my name is Jill Tarter. I'm the Emeritus Chair for SETI Research at the SETI Institute in Mountain View, California, and a very long time Arecibo user. When I watch the opening scenes of The Biggest Dream and I see those cables pulling free from their support blocks, it's as if someone were tugging on the strings of my own heart. That was such a marvelous scientific instrument that so many of us used to do so many interesting scientific projects and answer old questions and make new discoveries. Pulsar astronomers, atmospheric astronomers, radio astronomers, people interested in galactic structure and in the origins of the universe. People like me interested in trying to answer the old question, are we alone? So that instrument served many purposes over many years for many scientists. And now I think we need to find a way to come up with an equally important scientific replacement for Arecibo among the pantheon of scientific instruments. Good luck, everyone.
Well, the movie is trying to make people to look up and keep searching. We cannot stop here. We cannot stop looking up and keep finding other possible habitable planets, finding our origin, finding other space-inspiring galaxies, finding other possible asteroids that can actually affect us. So the search is not over yet. And it's for me, here in Puerto Rico, I'm gonna resume this here for Puerto Ricans. For us here in the island, this was so important because when I was a kid, they took us when we were kids in these like field trips. When we were in schools, teachers took us for the observatory, and they show us the museum, and we were so inspired. It was an amazing experience. So for all Puerto Ricans here, it was like something that we took for ourselves. So when it fell, it hit us hard. So it did not just affect the science community, it also affects other areas here, like especially arts, because we, the artists, we were very inspired in space and being curious. So one huge effort that came to be, all these amazing musicians here from the island came together and we say, you know what, we can also volunteer. So we did this amazing orchestra because we had to put this amazing score. So we had the opportunity to be with an amazing composer from England. And we worked very hard to make this amazing orchestra here in Puerto Ricans, with Puerto Ricans. So I'm going to show you that amazing experience because I want people to know that it wasn't just the science community. It inspires every other aspects of the society. I'm going to show this because I think it's very important. And all of this, of course, is part of the movie. It's just that I still cannot publish the movie. It's still around going a special circuit. But we need help for people to see actually the movie. So you can find more information. You looking for me or looking for in the Biggest Dream Facebook. You can write in the Biggest Dream Facebook, and you can help us reach other platform or other opportunities if you guys really want to see other ways how to see the movie. So, but look at this. I think it's a beautiful way of showing how important is watched not just for science but also for the community. I'm going to show you this amazing video about the film orchestra for the movie. The first thing that came to my mind when I was approached to tell the story of the Arecibo Observatory movie was the film score. I knew it was very important to tell the legacy of this great instrument. I mean, look at the history of this place. It's amazing. And the music is the most important thing to help inspire people to understand the huge importance of this legacy.
I totally agree, Andrew. So it was, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 57-year legacy behind the observatory. And for it to not be here anymore, we had to find a way to tie everyone's memories of the whole site together and sort of move that legacy forward and inspire people, like you said.
The biggest opportunity of my entire film career was the Caribbean Film Orchestra. To be able to produce with you and to be able to be part of this amazing event, to have these all amazing musicians here from Puerto Rico and to be playing for your cues, for your music, for your art. It was an amazing experience.
It was incredible, absolutely incredible. We had, I lost count of how many players we had on the day, on both days. It was really, really gifted musicians, all local to the island, and they all just wanted to be part of this legacy. So for them to be part of this and to bring the score to life was incredible. I don't really have any other words to describe it. It was an amazing experience. But yeah, it was so beautiful to hear the strings and the brass and the wind, everyone just coming together and bringing what we already had, but bringing it more to life.
So there you go. So anyways, thank you for the opportunity. I hope you can see the film in other platforms. Please look for more information about the movie in the Biggest Dream movie and about the Arecibo Observatory and the rebuilding in www.naycnic.edu. www.nayc.edu. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Great, thanks a lot. I think Megan may have some thoughts, but I just wanted to ask you quickly, because people are asking, what do you mean we don't have this anymore? People aren't aware of what happened to the telescope, so maybe you could just tell them.
Yeah, it was a very sad experience. Last year, I mean, last year in December, actually one of the cables broke. So they actually were trying here in the island, the administration of the Arecibo Observatory were trying to do their best, but actually it fell. The cable broke, so it couldn't hold itself. So now they want to rebuild it, but it all depends on the U.S. Congress. U.S. Congress has to decide if they want to rebuild it or not. So here in Puerto Rico, everybody wants a new instrument, but we cannot do much about it, sadly.
Thanks for telling that. Yeah, we find billions of dollars to send weapons to people, but can't do this. Megan, what thoughts do you have?
A couple, many. I'm really excited to see the film. One that just struck me is the complete optimism. Just the when you were talking about all of these international scientists working on it and these young people, and it's just so striking that this is human, this is natural, this kind of passion and curiosity and all of this stupid, geopolitics, conflicts, blah, blah, blah. That stuff just seems so insignificant or easily soluble if human beings were allowed to relate to one another in the way that you see there and what you were describing and showing to us. I mean, that's one big thought that comes to me, and it really is the anti-oligarchical principle at its best. So I mean, that's one. And the other one that strikes me, you were bringing up, I think, a very important aspect, which is planetary defense. I mean, we don't know how many asteroids and comets and other things threaten our planet, which could wipe out an entire city or more at any moment. Many of these asteroids that we've cataloged as near Earth objects, we only catalog after they surprise us by passing Earth. So instruments like that and international collaboration in that direction to protect the planet is really a common mission against actual enemies, these planet-killing asteroids. Those are the enemies of mankind, not another country here on Earth. And just a note on that, I saw a news item one of our friends sent us today that China has just announced that they want to set up a planetary defense telescope on the far side of the moon, which is really exciting. And you can imagine these young people in Puerto Rico being able to participate from there, but also in collaboration with the Chinese. And it's just a really exciting prospect for humanity coming together to be human.
Along these lines, I think the announcement of Russia that they will be withdrawing from the International Space Station is absolutely terrible. And also, I think we don't have the capability to, or at least we haven't been doing some of the things that they're doing. I don't know if you have comments on that, either of you.
No details, just I completely agree with you. It's a completely tragic loss, which can hopefully be quickly reversed. I don't know if that's possible, but it's completely tragic and detrimental to all of us.
What's amazing is that the universe is so huge that you can see, because people say, well, why do we need different telescopes? I mean, can't we just, the Webb is doing all this, but then you see, like you said, this question of planetary defense at Arecibo was detecting all these asteroids that people didn't see, that you have many different capabilities. And when you're talking about trillions of galaxies, which means more than trillions of potential planets which could foster life, then clearly you'd really like to be able to put the creative powers of as many people on this planet as possible into figuring this out. I mean, that's the beauty of the dialogue across cultures and languages and different parts of the planet. People will have a different perspective to bring to bear on this question.
Yeah, I think that's totally right. I was just thinking about Schiller, the fact that when I was thinking about this discussion today, this Schiller writing jumped into my head. Schiller was a poet, and his insights into really scientific problems of humanity's relationship to the very large and the very small, and the way in which we can kind of sound the depths of what's out there. That kind of cross-cultural dialogue is crucial for this. And what you find in the scientific community, and Andrew, I'm sure you know this from firsthand experience, is that, I mean, these scientists, they don't care where you're from. They look at their international colleagues as precious collaborators.
Yeah, I want to put another thing. The scientists there are so passionate about literally saving the Earth. When you go to their offices, they got these miniature dinosaurs and asteroids, just like a reminder, like the importance that they're on a mission. They're trying to save the Earth. They're looking for us. And right now they're trying to do their best, but there's such a limited of time because they got some data stored, but there's like Sarah said, there's trillions, there's many asteroids and objects that can hit us. We're not gonna find enough information. We just need to keep looking up.
Yeah, exactly. And people don't consider it only takes one very large asteroid, and that's sort of the end of everything, or at least half of the. And if you lose half the planet, ultimately, I think the effect on the atmosphere is not so good. So it's not. It'll be worse than the little public service announcement we got from How to Survive a Nuclear Bomb in Manhattan, which was ridiculous.
Well, the other thing I want to bring up, just Andrew, what you showed about the youth. I mean, that's the key, is young people. I mean, in the we're suffering from these terribly tragic, violent events, these school shootings, these other drug-related tragedies, all of these things. If people are serious about their children, the state of young people and protecting them today, they're going to fight for an outlook like this. They're going to fight for programs like this. Right. And I mean, that's like the young woman you showed in the film is inspiring, and I think representative of what all children could be thinking about.
Yeah, she's amazing. And it's her legacy. All of 57 years of journey, and this is her time. She sent her message. When you see the movie, you're going to see her speech. And it's her time, it's her moment, and we need to inspire and give them the tools for this new generation. We all need to get together and make this happen, because we have to.
That's right. That's right. And that's where you see, I'm sorry to say, the criminality of the incumbent senator whom I'm campaigning against. With his biggest mission is to legalize drugs nationwide, so people can be slaves for the city of Wall Street in London and places like Haiti and Colombia, where you have potentially geniuses, instead are overrun by gangs and terrorists. It really is criminal. Well, I think we have to wrap up, but I would like to just thank both of you. There's a lot here to discuss. And Andrew, if you want to say again how people can search for this film, people are asking.
Yeah, of course. For right now, all the information will be published about the film festivals, the screening states or places and countries. It all is always announced in the Facebook page in the Biggest Dream Movie, and also in the Arecibo Observatory Facebook. You can write us at the Biggest Dream Movie or at the Arecibo Observatory, or you can look up for the web page if you want to actually give some funding or something related for the rebuilding of the Arecibo Observatory. You can look in www.nayc.edu, so you can find more information about the Arecibo Observatory.
Great. Well, thanks very much. Thank you, Megan. I hope we hear more from you. Maybe we should talk about doing some short videos on this.
Good.
It would be great. And we have a lot of work to do, everybody, because human beings are not on their best behavior right now, and we've got to straighten them out. So with that, I think we'll wrap up. Thank you both.
Thanks.
I'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.